Good morning, all you sleepy people out there, all you door-to-door sales reps. Welcome to another good morning meeting. Today in the hot seat, we have the greatest rookie of all time, Dallin Peterson, and we couldn't be more excited to talk a little bit about going to R.A.C City and switchovers. Dallin, dude, welcome to the pod.
Thanks for having me.
Dude, so obviously greatest rookie of all time. Went out and did a golden door, $750K in revenue and 750 homes. What do you think? So there's so many people, rookies, vets, that would love to have the success that you had. Dude, what do you think is like one of the biggest things that was probably different about your story that maybe people don't know?
Yeah, I think probably a couple things like come to mind. I think number one, I think was just like all the preparation that I did leading up to the summer.
Okay.
I think a lot of people, specifically rookies, they think it might just come easy. And so, you know, they don't do a ton of preseason training. They kind of just think.
So you're telling me this job isn't easy?
Believe it or not, it's not easy, no. But yeah, I think a lot of people just go out there and expect it to come easy, and it doesn't. And so luckily I was a little bit older. I think that's the other thing, is that I was a little bit older than most other rookies. I was 23 when I started, and so I think I had a little bit more maturity, understanding like what the job actually would be. And so took full advantage of what it could do, and then just trained a ton and was able to go out and obviously have huge success, which is awesome.
Cool. Well, dude, something that I think isn't talked about enough is the first 2 weeks of the summer. The first 2 weeks is typically where momentum is made or momentum is absolutely murdered. And I think that's where, especially rookies, sometimes they give up in that time. Vets will give up in that time. The success doesn't go. I don't actually know your story. What was maybe your first 2 weeks like that might, I guess, what was your first 2 weeks like?
Yeah, I think due to all the preseason training that I did, my first 2 weeks was great. I sold 4 my first day. The second day I sold 7. First week was, I think it was like 18 accounts.
All new starts, switchovers?
Yeah, so probably 50-50 overall, but my first day, all 4 were switchovers.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, dude, I want to dive into that because I think most people, most rookies probably think switchovers are harder, right? What was it about your preparation that you think allowed you to have literally 4 switchovers right out the gate?
Yeah, I just had trained so much on switchovers in the preseason that I actually felt more confident with switchovers than I did with
new starts.
New starts, and so I wasn't. I think a lot of rookies, when they hear, oh, they have a company, they'll just leave, or they just don't really know how to handle it. And so I was the opposite, where even from day one, I was like excited when I heard that they had a company, because it was like, oh, this is easy. Like, it's not. I don't need to convince them why they need pest control. I just need to convince them why they should use us. And I had trained on that so much that I was super confident. And so I think a lot of rookies, specifically in those first 2 weeks, miss out on a lot of deals, even easy deals, just because they don't know how to do it.
Well, dude, it's funny that you say that, because my rookie year, I think I sold 7 switchovers the whole summer. And it took me a ton of time. So I think it's not even just something that plagues rookies. I think even vets, because I remember my second year really struggling to figure out switchovers. It was like, oh, you have Terminex? Cool, you're probably happy, right? Okay, cool. Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, if it's not broken, don't fix it. Have a good one, man. And I do think that's something that a lot of people struggle with. So whether it's a rookie or a vet listening to this, let's talk about that preparation. So most people, most rookies, they learn the pitch beginning to end, and then they start practicing situations. How did you incorporate switchover training? And maybe give us, like, as deep as you can, help us understand what what the preseason switchover training for you looked like.
Yeah, I think I was obviously so lucky to have the leaders that I did have, and they prepared me so well in the fact that we learned the regulars, and I trained a ton, and so there was so many opportunities that we had to train on. And so I learned the full pitch. I learned how to rack, and then the next thing we learned was switchovers. So even before we like dove too deep into like situational selling, I learned the switchover pitch and racking, and how to obviously rack with new startups and switchovers. And so then once I learned everything and smoke screens, and then it became very much like, okay, let's dive into like the situational stuff now that we know everything. And so we were able to incorporate new companies, or no company, or switchover, all that into the situational, trainings. And so I think it became super applicable to what it was actually going to be like on the doors, because I would just start, and then my leaders, as I was training, would just throw different objections at me, different smoke screens, different companies, no company. And so it just became like I just was so prepared on anything I could possibly run into.
So, and for those that don't maybe know what situational training, let's like paint the picture for them. So again, you know the pitch. It sounds like you know the intro, service, price, close. You learn a little bit about racking. Now you learn how switchovers differentiate. What does that look like? Is it like your manager sitting there and saying, okay, here's the situation, and they practice it, or are you just pitching him randomly and you don't know what the situation is and you're being forced? Like, walk us through the picture of what situational training looked like for you.
Yeah, I think it was a lot of everything. And so I think there was a lot of times that I would just start, had no idea where, my leader or my manager was going to go with like who he was going to be, if he was going to be a DIY guy or if he was going to have a company or not, or if he was going to be a bull, come out super hot. And so it became pretty applicable, but we had trained on certain things as well. So we trained on like DIY guys, and we had trained on like, okay, maybe if there's like if they're backed up to a forest or a pond, like how are you going to incorporate that into your pitch?
And are they just kind of asking you those questions and forcing you to kind of think through it yourself? Or are they just telling you, hey, if there's a pond, here's what you say? Just so the listeners can understand and maybe go out and do this exact thing.
Yeah. I think like both. I think like when it started off, it was like it was started off with them just being like, okay, let's talk about this situation. This is how I would handle it.
Okay.
And then they would throw it at me, and then I would do the same thing. And through practice, it kind of, I take what they say, I kind of make it my own, say it in my own way, and it just kind of formulates itself.
Cool.
And so it was honestly just everything.
How much? And so I want to walk through a timeline here just so I can understand. When did you sign last year? Mm-hmm. When do you think, let's start there. When did you sign last year?
I signed end of November, early December. I don't remember exactly when it was.
Okay. And then when do you feel like you were to the point where you kind of had already learned the pitch, everything we just talked about, but hadn't started practicing the actual situations out loud yet?
Probably January.
Okay, so
January,
so you had a month to get that down.
Yeah.
And then what did January to your first summer? Was it just like to your first tour? Was it just hours a day of this? Was it like, what did that look like?
Yeah, just hours and hours a day of just like full pitches. Like once we had trained on like each individual piece, and like I had felt like really good about each individual piece, then it became just, okay, I'm just gonna start. I'm just gonna go through the whole thing. We're going to go through no company, switch over, and it was just hours and hours of just role plays of just the full pitch.
Dude, what's crazy is I heard this quote the other day. It's like people want to get paid like a CEO, but they don't want to work like a CEO. And that's what I'm hearing right now is people want to get paid like the Rookie of the Year, who, by the way, I think you made $450,000+, but most people probably aren't willing to put in the work that you put in, right? So a couple of questions, because I hear a lot of people that are uncomfortable with doing role plays. Mm-hmm. Was it uncomfortable at the beginning when you started actually doing role plays, or was it always just something that kind of came natural?
No, it was like, I remember the first time I was stuttering and I was so awkward and I was laughing, and it was just like I felt so uncomfortable like actually doing the role play. But within a couple trainings, it's just like fine. And then like obviously, my leaders would do it back, and so I'd listen to them, and it just became like so comfortable just because I just had this mindset of like, yeah, it's awkward, but like they're doing it too. Cool. And everybody has to do it. And so.
Well, and I think a lot of guys, right, they sometimes rely too much on their managers, because I'm assuming there's not like 5 hours a day unlimited where you can sit down with your manager and just pitch. So I'm sure there was a portion of it with him there. What were you doing without your manager to still practice these skills?
Yeah, I would say the pitch out loud as much as I could. So I would say it out loud in the shower, in the mirror. I would pitch my parents. I would get my coworkers I was working a retail job.
Where at?
It's called Christensen's.
Shout out Christensen's.
We
stole your best employee.
It's my it's my dad. My dad actually owns the one in Cedar, which is where I grew up, and so I was just working there. Sorry, Dad. But I would bother my coworkers to just like let me just like pitch them. And so,
and what do you think? I'm just trying to understand this, because again, I'm just thinking about how many people would not be willing to ask one of their coworkers in a completely different industry, like, hey, can I pitch you some pest control? Like, what was the reaction like? Like, let's role play for a second. So I'm your coworker. We're at Christensen's. Are you just tell me how you're asking me?
Well, it was easy because like they knew I was gonna go and do it, and so they would like ask me like about like training and stuff. I was like, oh, we just do like role plays and stuff like that. And it was like, do you want to hear it? I was like, do you want to just hear it right now? Cool. And they'd be like, oh yeah, of course. And it was kind of funny. Like they wanted to hear it because they thought it'd be funny. But I think it actually did help quite a bit. So.
Cool, dude. That's awesome. And tell me, and again, I imagine you noticed a massive difference that first day, that first 2 weeks between your preparation and probably what most other rookies did. What were some of those differences that you noticed?
I think just overall, just success, I think, for sure. I think there was definitely like, a clear difference between like myself and maybe some of the other rookies that didn't necessarily prepare like I did. But I also just think even in just like being prepared as far as just I had a Segway, I had an iPad, I had all the clothes that I needed, I had plenty of money saved in the bank. And so one thing that I think is huge that doesn't get talked about enough is I didn't miss out on any switchovers where they didn't want to pay the cancel fee because I had saved up money because I knew that I could just step in and pay that.
And just again, to make it super applicable, what do you think, let's say you sign a rookie this year, he's asking you, hey, Dallin, how much should I have like saved? What do you think is like a good, healthy number that people should shoot for to have saved?
I think I had like 1,500 saved up. I think
that's less than I thought. So
yeah, I think I had between 15 and 2, and so it like wasn't like a ton.
Cool.
But I just think like that put me in a spot, and I obviously started selling right away as well. So I think anywhere from like 2,000 to 5,000 would be like a super good number to have saved up to where you can feel confident in knowing that like I can pay somebody's cancel fee to get the deal.
Cool.
And I think stuff like that is, I think a lot of rookies miss out on those deals specifically too. And then that's just huge for momentum, and just any deal just in those first couple weeks is just huge for, to push you through the whole summer.
Dude, I love that. And it sounds like, again, in your preparation, because in reality, like this job, it just has so many situations, and it sounds like you just wanted to prepare for and experience as many of those situations before they actually happened. Were you very surprised your first couple weeks? Was it like kind of what you expected because of the training? Was it harder? Was it easier? Where was it at on that spectrum?
It was obviously way harder still. I knew it was going to be so hard, but I just don't think I don't think there's any way to like prepare exactly for how hard it's going to be. But I think it's so much easier to like draw back on all your training and preparation when it does get hard. It was, things would get hard to be like, but I know how to do it. Like I've done this over and over and over again. I put in hours and hours and hours. I can figure it out. Like I can make it happen. And so I think the hardest thing for me was just like getting used to doing it with like a real customer on a real door.
With real money on the line.
With real money on the line. And so I think I had prepared so much. The first couple hours were horrible. I barely could even get through the intro still. And I trained more than anybody. Could barely get through the intro. But then.
Hey, wait, just let's pause on that for 1 second. Greatest rookie of all time, does 750K his first year. So that's 4 his first day, but still the first couple hours, like couldn't get past your intro. So that's normal.
Yeah. Yeah. So like no matter how much you prepare, you're still going to forget everything when you first get out there, no matter what. But because I'd prepared so much, I think it just came back quicker. And so it was like within a couple hours, I was like, okay, like I know how to say the intro. Like I can get through the intro. And then it just became about getting to the service. And then I'd get through the service, and then it became about just getting through program and pricing. And I think because I trained so much, that learning curve was so much faster. And so then I think it was like 6 o'clock when I got my first deal, and then I got the first one. I was like, oh, I can do it now. And then sold 3 more after that and ended at 4.
Well, guys, here's kind of a takeaway that I'm hearing for whether you're a manager training reps, whether you're a rookie or a vet who wants to level up. It sounds like one of the keys to success here is think of every situation you can possibly think of that you're going to face in the summer and go practice those as many times as possible. Because I think so often we hear the training on how to overcome it. We think about it in our mind, but how often are we actually getting with a real person, practicing getting cut off, practicing someone getting mad, practicing someone being a different personality? And again, what does that do is it gives you a higher chance in the moment to have that recall and bring it back. I think that's bars. Well, dude, something else that I think, now that I'm on the topic of it again, so rookies and vets a lot of times struggle with switchovers. I'm sure that there's the second piece that a lot of people struggle with, especially as a rookie, is racking. Mm-hmm. So was learning racking similar? Is it just something that you practice consistently, or walk us through, like, was there a learning curve to that? Did you kind of pick it up right off the bat? How did that go?
Oh, there was in my preseason training, there was a big learning curve. Like, it did not come easy. I remember spending hours and hours and hours role-playing with Tyler Adams and David Covington of just racking just over and over and over again. And it did not come easy. But I just practiced and trained so much that eventually I did get it, and it came. And then I think that was one of the, the biggest reasons I was able to start selling right away is just because I was down to do it. I also thought it was so fun. I loved training on racking more than anything else.
Okay.
I thought it was fun. I thought that was the coolest thing is that I can turn no's into yeses. And so it was so fun to train on racking as well. And so that's what I wanted to train on more than anything because it was fun and I was struggling with it. So it worked really well, and just practiced so much, and just would go through like David. I remember there was times like we would go like 10, 15 like rounds like over
In one
just
pitch.
in one pitch, and he just would not say yes. But it was super applicable because that happens all the time on the doors, and so I just got pretty comfortable going 10 to 15 rounds, whereas a lot of rookies go maybe a couple. They start to get uncomfortable and then they leave.
Yeah, it seems like rookies kind of wait till middle of the summer to get comfortable. It sounds
Mm-hmm.
like you forced yourself to be uncomfortable when most rookies wouldn't preseason.
Mm-hmm.
That way, when the summer started, you were actually comfortable. And guys, I think that is such a bar, especially for like not just rookies, but vets, even pros. How often are we practicing the actual skill, not just training about it, not just talking about it, but like actually practicing the real thing? Because it's like anything. If you cold plunge every day, what happens? You get more comfortable with it.
Mm-hmm.
You take 6 months off, it's going to be hard to cold plunge again. You don't rack very often in real life. I mean, I'm not like racking my friends to come hang out with me, right? So it's not something I'm doing typically. So you need to find ways in the off season and even probably like while you're out selling, like learn how to practice racking.
Yeah.
So let's talk about in the season now. So again, preparation precedes power. So you do all the preparation, you're a little bit more comfortable. It's off to the races those first 2 weeks. But obviously I'm sure there was still a ton of stuff you had to learn in the middle of the summer. Did you train at nights? Did you train in the mornings? Like how did you get better? Because you also didn't start off like it's not like you were on pace to be the rookie of the year.
Mm-hmm.
How did you train in the middle of the summer?
Yeah, I think Ryan Jenkins was my manager, and I think his morning trainings were super dialed. I think he's so good at training on the basics. I to be completely honest, I didn't do a ton of training morning and night, but if I ever at a point throughout the summer was struggling, or maybe in a little bit more of like what you could say a slump, I would start just incorporating audio into my morning routine.
What do you mean by audio?
Like an audio recording of like Seeger or Parker or Skyler, Brock, Cody Olive, somebody that's just sold at the highest level. I would just listen to one of theirs. And then and my whole goal for the day was just to try and sound like them.
Cool.
And
so again, a lot of people don't have access to stuff like that, right? And so it sounds like that was something that actually really helped you through slumps, is being able to really listen to real pitches. Because again, we have a ton of recordings in the database where you can listen to a real live sale. What were some of the things that you learned through listening to those?
that simplicity is always what sells. Anytime I would veer off from just like the basic pitch, that's when I would start to struggle and get in a slump. So the whole goal of the reason why I listened to those is because I knew that I just needed to get dialed back in on like the basics. And
Cool.
so when you listen to Zach Seeger and Cody Olive and Brock Reeve pitch, it's like, it's very simple. It's nothing complicated, but it's just the basics, and that's what works. But I think as you go, throughout time, you'll naturally start to veer off, and then it's about just correcting as soon as you can, getting back on like, I think about it like a straight path to like my goal, and I'm gonna veer off, but then I just got to correct and get back on the straight path and just continue down.
Cool. Well, dude, I want to get a little raw and authentic. Permission to do so?
Please.
I remember being a rookie and a vet and seeing people that had like high success, and it became this like God complex where it was like, oh, they're different than me. They must have been born different. They have some skill or something that I don't have. And I think that makes us, like for someone like me who wasn't really good, whenever I'd see someone having success, it was almost like the medicine that I took to make myself feel better. Like, oh, they can't be a normal human. They have to be special. They have to be born with something I wasn't. And I guarantee you, whether you realize it or not, Dallin, like that's how people categorize you. They look at you and they say, dude, Dallin, like I can't relate to that guy. He has something I don't. Like, who is Dallin, right? Because I mean, I've got to know you, and you seem like a really normal guy. Do you feel like you're this massively gifted, special person, God sent, who's better than everyone, or like who are you, dude?
No, not at all. I didn't have any sales experience. I was a good student in high school, and I was a good athlete, but not going to go to I played basketball, but I wasn't good enough to go to the NBA. Like, I was just working a regular job, retail job, going to college, failing a lot of classes. Was never like, I'm smart, but never like super smart. The way that I've always classified myself is like, I think sometimes like things don't really come easy, but nobody will work harder than I do to figure it out. And so I've never really been, I wasn't just some gifted athlete either, but nobody worked harder than me, and so I was able to have success. I was never, the smartest kid in school, but I worked hard, and so I was able to have success. I was, even with this, it's like I know I was not some natural born salesman, but I know that nobody worked harder than I did. And so I just think I make up for whatever I might lack, ability wise with hard work and preparation and just like obsession. Like
Cool.
just like nobody will care more, nobody will work harder, nobody will be more obsessed than me at whatever I'm doing. And what's cool is that's a choice. That's not a gift.
It's not a God-given gift. It's
No.
a choice.
I think hard work always came easy to me. I've never not worked hard. And I think some people maybe struggle to work harder, but again, that's a choice. And so you just have to be disciplined enough to make that choice all the time. And
Dude, well, then speak to that. Speak to the listener who probably sees your success and says, there's no way I could have that. What would you say to them?
I think the only thing stopping you from having that success is that attitude of, I can't have it. Like I've never been that way. I've always been nobody will believe in, I believe in myself more than anybody. And so I would never be the type to say, oh, I can't go get that. I can't go get this or whatever. And so if you have that limiting belief of, oh, he's just special or they're just special, I can't have that, then I think that right there is the only thing that would hold anybody back from chasing their dreams. And for me, it's like, I would way rather shoot for the moon and land in the stars. Like, I'm not afraid to fail at all. And so I'm not afraid I wasn't afraid to set the goal of hitting a golden door and fall short because I knew that I was going to land and I was going to go further with that goal than I would with a smaller goal.
Yeah, dude, so many people, I think the fear of failing keeps them from even trying, and then they guarantee their failure. At least you're giving yourself a shot to succeed or a shot to fail if you at least try.
Yeah.
And dude, I think that, going back to myself, as I kind of rose through the ranks of this industry, right? It took me so long to realize that the top guys are not special. It took me so long to realize that they're not gods. They didn't have some gift that I didn't have. I know if I was a rookie right now, I'd look at you and be like, oh, it would make my heart feel so much better to just, yeah, he's different. That he has something I don't have. But I want to just tell you guys, I've been in the industry for 12 years. I've worked with arguably more of the top reps in the industry, more record breakers than anyone, and I am blown away how normal these people are and how not God-given gifts they have. They're just normal people who just believe they can try and who aren't afraid to fail and who go for it. And like, I've gotten to know Dallin, and if you don't know him, like, dude, he's the kindest person in the world. He is super humble. He is, again, very like normal. And so if you're sitting and looking at his success thinking, hey, that could never be me, I'm telling you, he just gave you the prescription. It's like, hey, maybe you don't have X, Y, or Z, but you do have a choice to work hard. And if no one outworks you, like, that was the secret to his success. And also the second key there is don't be afraid to fail. Like, you are going to fail. Like, and I imagine you failed way more in the process of practicing than every other rookie. So that's probably why you had the success in a lot of ways you did, because again, you got so many of those failures out before the summer in the preparation. Yeah.
And I think too, like, I just never gave myself a way out either. Like, I was never really pacing to hit a golden door. My first month, I sold well, but I wasn't.
Guys, listen to that. I didn't know that because again, Dallin's in the other organization. So in my mind, I'm already doing it. I'm already thinking like putting you on this pedestal of like, oh, I'm sure he was pacing for a golden door the whole time. So you weren't pacing for a golden door the whole time.
No, my first month I sold 80K, which is great for a rookie. I don't mean that at all, that it wasn't, but if you sell 80K a month, you're going to hit a golden door in 9 months. But that was my first month. My second month I sold 100K. And so better, but still like, that's pacing to have me hit it in, 7-8 months. And then, just got better each month. Then it was 100, then it was 100 and I think like 110. And then I kind of made a big jump, and then it was like 150. And then my last 4 weeks was like, I sold like 50K, 60K. So it was like 210 in the last 4 weeks that I knocked. Really? But it was like, never was I pacing, but then all of a sudden, the ramp, and I was never even somebody that really believed in the ramp. I was like, dude, what? Like, I don't know. How do I just like get better? Like, how does that happen? But then it does, and you just get better, and then all the big weeks and months at the end make up for the small ones, and then it ended up taking me 5 months, which is awesome. But I just think a lot of people don't start out pacing, and then they lose hope, and then they're all of a sudden give themselves a way out. The goal maybe drops. Okay. Whereas like I just didn't care how long it took. Like, I set the goal, and for me, I think I've said this before, but like goals are like handcuffs to me. So once I set the goal, there's no choice. The choice has been made. Now I just have to go do what it takes, and I'm not going to stop until I hit it.
Yeah, Brock Grieve talks about this. He says it's like jumping off a cliff. If the goal is to hit the water, once you jump off the cliff, you can't jump back on.
No.
So you better brace for hitting the water. And it sounds like that's your handcuff analogy. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Well, dude, I think that's super unique because I'm sure, again, most people, even myself listening to this, just imagine that, hey, you sold 4 your first day, so you probably sold $200K your first month. But, dude, how many of us are selling $80K in that first month and giving up or changing the goal? So maybe we can kind of end on this, dude. Talk to us about, again, you said something that I think is super applicable to everyone. When you do 80K, most people, or when you're not pacing for the goal, you lose hope, you give yourself a way out, and oftentimes you change the goal. How did you not do those 3 things? How did you maintain hope? How did you not change the goal? And how did you not give yourself a way out?
It's not even like how did you do it? Because it's just a choice.
Okay.
Like it's all it is you just make the choice. You know, it's hard. It's not easy. And like there were plenty of times where the easy thing to do would have been to go home. After when it was the end of the Rumble and I was not even at 500K. Like how many kids? I already made life-changing money.
Yeah.
It's like how many kids would have just gone home? But like money was never the goal because the goal was to hit a golden door. Obviously money, I knew the money would follow. But yeah, it's just a choice, right? It's about this is what I told myself I want to do. And so if I don't do it, then I'm not even honest with myself. And how can I be a good man, how can I look my friends and family and everybody in the eye and not even like hold myself, not even do what I tell myself I'm going to do.
Dude, I love that.
And so
I love that, dude. It's a choice, guys. And I think that is the biggest bar in all of this is like, you might think it's a gift that he was given, but it's bigger than that. It was a choice that he made that he stuck to. And that's why he had the results that he had. So, Dallin, where can people find you if they want to reach out to you?
Yeah, Instagram's the best. I think my Instagram handle's Dallin_Peterson. But you can just look me up on Instagram, send me a DM.
Let's go.
I spend way too much time on there, so.
Don't we all?
Yeah.
Well, Dallin, dude, that was absolutely amazing. Thanks for taking us through your story, through R.A.C City, switchovers, the first 2 weeks, and just the power of making choices. To all you door-to-door folks out there, I'll see you next time here on Good Morning Meeting.